Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Jerred Moon. The Garage Gym Athlete Podcast is a result of my desire to build better humans, unequivocal coaches, and autonomous athletes. I've spent the last several years obsessing over program design, nutrition, and every other way you can optimize human performance. This podcast distills the latest scientific research with what I've learned and blends it with the not-so-scientific field of mental toughness. We are here to build you into a dangerously effective athlete. If you enjoy this podcast, you can find out more about our training at garagegymathlete.com. And if you want to pursue more into the field of coaching and programming, head to endof3fitness.com. Thanks for listening. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jerred Moon here with pretty much everybody. We have Kyle, we have Ashley, and Joe Trampus is here. What's up, Trampus?
How's it going?
Yeah,
The new Joe.
We're just slowly going to just phase Joe out.
Yeah.
And Trampus is going to be coming in. So
I'm gonna take over all of Joe's responsibilities over the next week.
You don't want that.
Good luck.
You don't want that. Let's slow down on that one.
But welcome, Trampus. Trampus has been on the podcast multiple times as an athlete. He's now here as a coach and a part of the team. If you didn't know, we have announced it multiple places. Trampus is on the team, really helping out with the Garage Gym Athlete merchandise and products and all of those things, which you should definitely go check out at garagegymathlete.com. There's a store in the main menu. Oh, there you go. He's just sipping on from a mug he made. So a lot of great stuff. He's really increased our offerings, and it's some really cool stuff. New logos, new designs. My personal favorite new one is the Daily Over Decades shirt. If the community hasn't seen that, I think it's awesome. And
it's super soft.
Super soft too. But we should probably get into it. Welcome, Trampus. Though that was your official welcome. That's all you get, though. We'll get into the study. We'll go straight to I don't know, something I love. It's fuels, it's energy systems, it's substrates being used in oxidized in performance setting. And so the actual name of the study is Pre-Exercise Carbohydrate or Protein Ingestion Influences Substrate Oxidation, but not performance or hunger compared with cycling in the fasted state. The study was done in 2021. I have a lot of notes on this one, mainly because it's, I just love talking about these things. I look at a lot of studies like this. This is one of my more wheelhouse areas, but I'll just kind of try and hit the highlights before we get to the team. So 17 male cyclists and triathletes participated in this study. They're between the ages of 18 and 55 years old, trained at least 8 hours per week for the 2 preceding years, and had a VO2 max of above 55. It's pretty solid VO2 max if you're not familiar with VO2 max numbers. Participants were asked how often they typically exercise in the overnight fasted state. 59% said rarely or never. 18% said 1 to 2 times per week, and 24% said more than 2 times per week. So that's the WHO. The big reason why I'll pull straight from the study to determine the effects of 3 different pre-exercise nutrition strategies on substrate oxidation. So substrate oxidation is just the form of, let's say, macronutrient that was burned. Oxidation is typically like burn, like fat oxidation is fat burn. Performance during high-intensity interval training and exercise-induced oxidative stress. They also looked at the effects of pre-exercise feeding strategies on some secondary outcomes, including hunger and gastrointestinal comfort before and after exercise, in addition to cycling gross efficiency, heart rate, and rating of perceived exertion, RPE, during cycling exercise. I don't have a lot of notes on the back half of those things. If any of you do, that's cool, but I mainly focused on looking at the substrate utilization. Now, trying to round this out, they did 4 5-minute submaximal cycling stages at increasing intensities, and then they did 6 3-minute bouts, and they had to maintain 80% of peak power, and then the last couple were all out.
Right.
overall, a really solid cycling workout. I've done workouts like this on my erg before. So this is just this would have been a tough workout that they were running everyone through. Everyone acted as their own control. So they either had to do high protein, high carb, and water. Yeah. And that's about all I'm going to get into, because I just feel like I could keep talking about the ins and outs of this. But what they were just looking at, they were looking at high protein, they were looking at high carbohydrate, and like how these things and fasted, and they were looking at how your body used different substrates. I feel like the conclusion is super obvious, but from the study, it says overall exercising in the overnight fasted state increased fat oxidation during submaximal exercise compared with exercise following a carbohydrate-rich breakfast, and pre-exercise protein ingestion allowed similarly high levels of fat oxidation. There were no difference in perceived exertion, hunger, or performance, and we provide novel data showing no influence of pre-exercise nutrition ingestion on exercise-induced oxidative stress. Okay, let's just start unpacking that. Whoever wants to go first, we can start diving into the nuances of the study.
So it was a crossover, which just means that everybody completed all 3 conditions. I think did you hit on that already? Anyways,
Mention it.
Okay. So they had everybody do the high protein, the high carb, as well as the fasted. And just what Jerred said, like the results were like pretty much the same for every single thing. So, and then I also found interesting something that I'll bring up before I like get into my kind of takeaways here, was that they talked about how they went in and like upon arrival in the lab and stuff, and they assessed their sleep, their food, but they didn't keep a food log. Like I found that super, I don't know, like were some like carb backloading. Have you heard of that? Like where you like eat a ton of carbs at night. So then that way, like, I don't know. So
I think it matters a lot what you're saying, because if you have high glycogen stores, I feel like a lot of this entire study is irrelevant, to be honest. And that's something I'll talk a little bit more. But yeah, the fact that they didn't really truly track that as well as they should have, I think was a miss.
Yeah,
they did. They actually did, though. They took a food log for the previous 24 hours before they came in.
Yeah, it's a food log, which is dependent on the person.
Yeah, it was on the right.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. The researchers weren't tracking their food. They were dependent on each individual to track and list
and the accuracy of such thing, because they might have been like, yeah, I had pasta last night, probably 50 grams, when really they had 4 servings and it was like 175 grams of carbohydrate. That's the only thing I think was a miss.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it. There we go. Continue, Ashley. Sorry.
Anyways, so I felt that would have been super important if they would have like actually, logged things in there that were, exactly what Jerred said, like super strict about it, I guess. But to me, this shows that there really isn't need, because I feel like a lot of people start like, oh, well, I need to have something before I work out, or, I need to have oatmeal is like a big thing. Like I have, my sister-in-law does the same thing. I have to have a little meal before I go. And it kind of shows that, well, you might not even need the meal, like, and it all depends, right? So fasted was better at burning fat. And I think protein was a little bit up there too. But I think what you need to do is be smart about when and what you eat. For example, they talked about the GI issues with the high protein diet and like how people were having discomfort. And I'm like, well, if you had a lot of protein, like it's going to make sense. And I think my killing comfort for this one would be, like I said, be smart about when you are eating. So if your body doesn't necessarily need a meal and you're just doing it just to do it, my killing comfort is try a trained session fasted and see what happens, and see like, do you really need that extra glycogen that you're putting in your body, or whatever kind of meal that you're eating prior to, that would be my killing comfort. Kyle, what do you have to say?
So no surprise here that there was more fat burn in the fasted state than there was in the carb state. But this is also, you have to remember that there was better fat burn in the submaximal efforts. Like once they started getting into the higher intensity, we know that's how fuels works.
We know that.
And
make sure the listeners know it.
Anyone who's listened to the podcast for any length of time should know that that once you get into higher intensity, your body switches its fuel source over to carbs. And so since the front, it was front loaded on the workout, the submaximal stuff. They did the submaximal stuff first, and they ended with the higher intensity stuff. And so that's kind of where the carb burn came in at the end with the higher intensity stuff. And so that's what we're looking at here is there was higher fat burn in a fasted state and with a protein breakfast in submaximal efforts. So that's what we're looking at. And to me, this is just, again, another study that just proves all the stuff that we've been telling you on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Like, and no, we're not just picking studies that go along with what we like and what we say. We're just saying, this is what the science is telling us, that this is what you need to be doing. And personally, I know I feel better when I train fasted. I feel better. That's how I operate. I've had to kind of change my work schedule and the way that I do things during the day, to where I don't actually get to train fasted most of the time anymore. But especially if I'm doing any kind of cardio intervals or something like running and all that kind of stuff, like I would rather do that in the morning, not just because of like temperature wise, weather wise, those kinds of things. It's cooler in the morning, feels better to do it in the morning. But if I have to run after I've eaten lunch, that's going to be a rough day. Like it's a rough day for me if I have to run after I've eaten for the day. So I try to get that kind of stuff in before I eat during the day. But I personally just feel better when I'm training fasted and don't have something on my stomach. Besides water, obviously I'm drinking some water before. I'll typically drink some water during. But I'm not drinking gallons of it before. So anyway, that's just how I personally feel. But this was a good study. I agree, Jerred, this was a really good study. I enjoyed reading it. The way it was written was really good. It explained everything very clearly. It tracked a whole bunch of things. But it just, to me, it proves that meal timing matters, that what you're training, the training session that you're going to be doing for the day should be dictating when you eat, what you eat, those kinds of things, and just be mindful of those things. I guess we're doing our kill and comfort thing as we go now, right? Is that what we're doing? Because that's Ashley's thing. My kill and comfort for I haven't been on in a while, so I had to take my shot. Joe's not here, so my kill and comfort would be to intentionally pay attention, like intentionally acknowledge how you feel before, during, and after your workout. So to me, this is kind of part of mental toughness, is training yourself to be mindful of how your body is responding to your training, how your body is responding to your nutrition. So don't just go in and do what you've always done, or, don't just say, well, I just got to suck it up and move on. Like if there are things that are happening to you, there are ways that you're feeling. If you're having some gut issues, like your gut doesn't feel good when you're training, maybe you need to do something different. You know what I mean? If you're running into issues with having energy to last through the workout, maybe that's something you need to pay attention to before the workout. If there's something happening, something going on, you don't feel good, whatever's happening, pay attention to those things. So that would be my kill and comfort. Don't just kind of bulldoze through everything. Be intentional and pay attention to the signals that your body is sending you. Trampus.
Love how you guys are throwing it over to Trampus at the end, when that's like hard to do. He's the new guy.
Yep.
And you've just got all the points that you want to hit. And now it's like, Trampus, good luck.
Trial by fire, man.
End of the fire. Yeah, for sure.
He has the most points though, so I feel like he's all right.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here trying to find out what I'm going to say, but through what's taken
We'll
already.
keep alluding to what you're going to say, so we're setting you up.
Right. Well, I agree with everything. I mean, for the most part that Ashley and Kyle said. I mean, it's sort of just reassuring. I have a very flexible schedule for when I work out. Sometimes it's in the morning, sometimes it's in the evening. And at least from a food or fuel perspective, I'm not as concerned now with have a, I worked out fasted the other day. Tonight, I'm going to have to do it tonight. So I'm probably going to eat through the day. It's kind of reassuring to know that you can still get a decent workout in or a training session in, despite what you've eaten. Some cooler things at the end of the study that I thought were some good suggestions. They said for a new study, I thought would be great to see would be more lifting, like a lifting specific study, but then also kind of leading back to what Ashley, you were saying with the food log and all that. They would have them. What was it? It was one where they would come in completely fasted, and then they would give them like a pre-workout or something like that, like a specified pre-workout just to test that. But then there was also another suggestion where they would do a glycogen depleting workout, rest, come back, and but only eat like a certain meal protocol. And I guess they would track all that food and just really take all the variables out of it. So that would be cool to see. And also a little more lifting specific, not just cycling. But yeah, at the end of the day, like y'all said, a lot of it just comes down to your personal preference and how your body responds, which I know it's just not a shocker for anybody that follows a GGA programming and listens to everything we say. So it's just experiment. My killing comfort would probably be something like let go of your bias that you've built up over the last 4 or 5 years of training and see what changes you can implement that you've been holding on to, something that just let that go, see if you can go fasted or try eating before a meal and see if you can do a little better. It only really works for about an hour though, because after that, you're going to start depleting. And I was in a Spartan race over the weekend and I got depleted pretty quick. So just you got to know when to refuel. But that's about it.
That's a really good point that you ended on.
Yeah.
Is I don't think that this stuff matters that much because of the training session that we're at an hour.
Right.
But when we go beyond that, this is where I think fueling actually does become the most important, and where your knowledge of such fueling practices becomes very important, because if you're just eating enough throughout the day, you're going to have enough glycogen, which is stored carbohydrates stored in your liver and it's stored in your muscles. You're just going to have enough to perform a garage gym athlete training session for an hour. So when anyone who's only following garage gym athlete programming asks me about fueling strategies, pre-workout nutrition, I basically say it's not that important. And that's kind of true. So long as your normal diet is adequate, because I don't care if you're training fasted. I don't care if you're training at night, middle of the day, you're going to have enough stored carbohydrate in the form of glycogen to perform that training session. Anything else that you think that you feel could be completely unrelated to nutrition. So if you're hitting fatigue and training sessions, check your sleep, check your hydration, check your electrolytes. These are all things that are probably more important to your fatigue level than it is whether or not you had your, whatever carbohydrate drink is before you work out. But to hit on what Trampus said one more time, once you pass that 60-minute threshold, if it's a fairly intense session, you might want to start thinking about how to throw more specifically carbohydrates into your diet. There are some fats that you could possibly do. Protein, almost irrelevant as far as fueling goes. So I just want to read off the amounts so people would kind of get a feel for that. On the high carb day, participants consumed about 1 gram per kilogram of carbohydrate from bread, jam, and a carbohydrate/electrolyte beverage. On the high protein day, participants consumed a calorie matched meal providing 0.45 grams per kilogram of protein and 0.24 grams of kilogram of fat from whey protein isolate and peanut butter. So if you're just wondering how much carbohydrate, how much protein they were consuming, and ultimately from the studies, one of the takeaways, the main conclusion, it said overall exercising in the overnight fasted state increased fat oxidation during submaximal exercise compared with exercise following a carbohydrate-rich breakfast. And so that is just how it works. If your body, if you're in zone 2, and why we do a lot of zone 2 is it loves to burn fat, to oxidize fat in that intensity zone, because we don't really click over to carbohydrates until we get way more intense. And then once you get zone 4 and 5, you're looking at almost pure sugar burn. And that's all your body is burning, especially in zone 5. It's just like if you were to like drop like a tablespoon or a teaspoon of sugar like on your desk for every like 10 minutes that you're in zone 5, like it would show you how much sugar that you're actually burning. But you're a sugar burner. And the reason I started diving into this stuff so much is because I was just getting kind of irritated with keto people who were just saying like, your body, it will eventually click over. Like eventually you'll use it. You'll learn how to do it. And that's just not what the science supports. If you're in these higher intensity zones, you cannot, your body doesn't just oxidize fat all of a sudden in the same way that it would sugar, or use it as quickly. And so it's just not accurate. And all of the stuff from keto world saying that it works perfectly and you have to wait, there are these endurance athletes who spend a ridiculous amount of time in zone 2 and zone 3 to where fat oxidation is very possible. And so you can do that for long periods of time. And that's their race day in zone 3, and that they're training in zone 2. And then they may have just enough glycogen to support their very short, high intensity bouts. So anyway, the main takeaway I wanted for athletes, kind of two things, is one, match your diet to your goals. If you are wanting to burn a lot of fat, then this kind of goes along the same thing that we've always known. Zone 2, fasted state, you're going to oxidize more fat. But you don't need to think so much of like these direct one-to-one, like, okay, I'm about to work out, I have to have this thing. Like it doesn't work that way. What you need to do, and something we teach in the fuels course, is you find out what your body probably burns. And I say probably because we're not actually testing your blood or your breath or anything like that. What your body burns based off of your heart rate zones, we actually walk you through this. And then you can kind of calculate out how many carbohydrates you probably burn in a session, how much fat, so on and so forth. And so as long as you're consuming that, let's say on a daily basis, those many carbohydrates, that much fat, like you will be fine. And your body will have that stored glycogen to perform the next day. And so that's what's most important about the fuels course, is this longer term. What is your diet? How consistent are you diet over a 7-day period, over 14, over 30 days? And then that's where it really starts to, implementation of our fuels course starts to kick in, because you're like, okay, you're a little bit more comfortable. Like if you're a person who thought you can only have 75 carbohydrates because you read that in a book somewhere, but you find out that you're a person who burns 150 carbohydrates, and you're starting to increase your carbohydrate intake based off of what you actually burn, you'll get a lot further. So that is what I want athletes to take away. Like if you want to burn fat, go for it. If you don't want to burn fat or burn anything else, I think pre-workout meals might be really important. I know like bodybuilders, they will do low intensity stuff, but they want to train in a fed state because they don't want any possibility of tapping into that muscle and any sort of muscle wasting, And my ultimate killing comfort strategy or takeaway here is spend some money and buy our fuels course, because I go in depth on all the different macronutrients, how they're used. You get the fuels thumbprint is what we call it, to where you actually go through a series of energy system tests with a heart rate monitor. And we tell you with calculators what we think what you burn in each training session. And we help you with your pre and post workout nutrition to be able to, like I said, be consistent in that pre and post workout nutrition, not an individual training day. Like I said, I don't think that matters that much. I think the pre and post workout nutrition matters over like a 30-day time period, the cumulative of that effect, because Trampus mentioned his Spartan race. He knew when he ran out of glycogen. It's like, it's obvious. And when these things happen. It happens to me in cycling, almost dead on at the 60-minute mark. If I'm doing a fairly intense ride, it's like, it's gone. And I am basically walking my bike, and so these things are very obvious, but if you plan for them, when you need to fuel, and we're not going to be able to just tell you all those things on the podcast. This is an educational course that you could really go. And I know it's very self-serving for our company, but hey, we didn't just put together to make money. We put it together to teach you what the hell that you should be doing with your fueling strategy. So if you want to take the fuels course, you can do that. Go to into3fitness.com and sign up for it. But that is my killing comfort. Spend some money and get smarter.
Do it.
All right. And I could talk about this all day. I love fuels. I love how it works. And the main reason I'm always looking at this stuff is because it could change. Like science changes, the information changes. This just confirms what we have been talking about the whole time. And if anything ever changes from what I think, I'll let people know. But so far, we're pretty spot on with how the different fuels are used at the given intensities. And this doesn't change any of my thoughts on that. It's just more in line with those things. Cool. Let's get into the topic, unless anybody has anything else.
Nope.
All right. So this is kind of an AMA. We were going to start moving the occasional AMA as the topic here. So we're answering athlete questions. We're hovering more around sleep supplementation on this one. And yeah, I'll read the question. But if you do have a question, go to garagegymathlete.com/AMA and you could submit a question to us at any time. And we are going to start picking up more and more of these on the podcast here, kind of in this topic segment as we get here. So from Steven, said, "Hi guys, I just listened to the supplementation webinar." Pause. "If you didn't know, if you're not a garage gym athlete, or you are, the app's great. That's where you get all your workouts. If you log into the site, which is not part of the app, I know it's confusing. We can't do anything about it. You have a ton of educational resources at your fingertips, like all these educational webinars I've done over the years on bands, on supplementation, on cortisol, like all these different things. So if you are the person who likes to learn, you have that available to you. So I just listened to the supplementation webinar, and I have a question about two supplements that were not explicitly mentioned. The first is fish oil, and the second is ZMA. Anecdotally, I felt like I recover a little faster and get over some muscle soreness a little faster when I'm using these supplements. Also, I have felt that when I take ZMA before bed, my sleep has been better. Do you have any suggestions about the use of these supplements, information about effectiveness or dosage recommendations? I have read that when it comes to fish oil, you should take a much higher dose than is recommended." Okay, like I said, we're going to talk a little bit more about sleep supplementation, but I did want to get out of the way fish oil, because we covered fish oil in, like, we did an entire podcast episode on it, on fish oil.
Episode 71, actually.
Was it 71? Okay.
71.
Thanks for pulling that up. So episode 71, and it covers, I mean, a lot. And ultimately, the takeaway, if you don't want to go back to 71, you don't want to kill that comfort of having to use the thumbs and dedicate the time. And I'm not picking on you, Steven. I'm just making a joke in general terms here. But the ultimately takeaway was there are so many benefits to fish oil, like cardiovascular health wise. Most people should be taking it if you're not consuming enough fish already. And there is some evidence to suggest that fish oil supplementation across a broad range of dosages may reduce soreness and improve recovery. But then the evidence gets weaker in showing modest benefits for things like body composition and training adaptation. So there may be some recovery benefits. It's not a super strong link, but the cardiovascular links alone definitely should be taking. As far as taking, he mentioned taking way more than they say that you should. Broader literature seems to indicate that combined EPA DHA dosage of roughly 1 to 3 grams a day appears to be sufficient for most purposes. I don't know if that's beyond what fish oil. I think that's normally about what a fish oil serving size would be. I do think that in the study that we covered, they got up to like 3 to 6 grams of fish oil a day, but yeah, they got all the way up to 6 grams a day. And I think that was like overboard. There wasn't necessarily more benefit after you got to a certain point. So I think if you're just consistent with let's say 1 to 2 grams a day, you're going to be fine and get most of the benefit. Now, as far as ZMA, I don't know if I've never taken ZMA. From the studies that I pulled on ZMA, it seemed like if you are not deficient in zinc or magnesium, ZMA didn't really help, wasn't that helpful. But it wasn't necessarily like detrimental to your performance either, but kind of depends on like where your current blood saturation levels are on these things. And then I'll throw it over to the team. I stole those right off the beginning because I know we were going to talk more about sleep supplementation in general, because the overall effectiveness of ZMA is probably not overwhelming, but we can talk about some other stuff if people need some help with that. So who's up?
Travis, why don't you go first since we made you go last time?
Knock it out, Trampus.
Yeah, well, I really want to hear. I've been waiting
Mhm.
hours. I mean, days. A day,
Hours.
at least a day.
Hours.
Half a
Not
day for this.
As far as krill oil or fish oil, I take krill oil. On it, krill oil. It's about, I think it's 1,000 milligrams per serving. And I notice, or I feel like I notice a difference when I'm on it versus when I stop taking it. So there's that. ZMA I've never taken, so I have no.
There's even studies on fish
experience.
oil that I think like 6 weeks of supplementation can like improve your night vision by 30% or something crazy like that. I mean, there's very little reason, in my opinion, to not take fish oil
Right.
because there's a 95% chance you're not eating enough fish. Like I eat a good amount of fish and I'm probably still not eating enough fish. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I'm definitely not eating enough fish. So
supplement. Yeah.
Yeah, krill oil. Sleep aids. I have zero experience. Well, I won't say zero experience.
You should have experience. That's what I've been waiting on.
We voted. We voted yesterday what this topic was going to be. What I voted for did not win. They wanted to talk about sleep aids. I have zero experience. I went and bought a bottle of melatonin.
Look at the dedication here, people.
Apparently a high dose of melatonin as well.
Very high dose.
10 milligrams. They all thought I was going to be dead. And what's kind of interesting about this is I woke up a little bit earlier than my alarm and ready to go. Like, I don't know that I've ever.
Probably because you were in such a deep
you
sleep.
slept so
man.
well.
Well, what's weird?
So well.
What's weird is my Garmin, and this is obviously one night. So my Garmin said I had zero deep sleep. It was all light sleep last night. And so I don't know if I just didn't get that deep of sleep, so I was up and ready to go or what. But
how do you feel? I feel like that's the most important
I felt
thing.
good. No, I felt good. Like, and I usually train in the mornings, and so it's not a huge struggle, but like it was easy for me to get up this morning. And
Good.
And I went out there and did 60 minutes on the bike, a little zone 2. So like I said,
And just
still
to
recovering.
put that in perspective, I've taken melatonin multiple times. The typical dosage I take is 3 milligrams, and it's perfect for me. And Trampus went all in, never having done a sleep aid, 10 milligrams. So
Had no idea what was going to happen to him.
yeah.
Well, what was
Selling
weird,
out, man, I love it.
What was weird, and I didn't look it up. I just grabbed a bottle from Publix. And I posted it to the Slack group, and they're like, "Oh wow, okay, here we go." But I did take it. I took it 30 minutes before I wanted to go to sleep, and I was asleep 30 minutes later, like without a doubt.
Did you have any hangover effect the next day?
It would be this morning, and
Yeah.
no, really no. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It was almost weird how like ready I was. I mean, I woke up 15 minutes before my alarm and I was ready to go. So
Do you normally toss and turn a lot at night? Like to like the falling asleep? Does that take you a while?
No, it doesn't take me it doesn't take me long, especially when we turn out the lights. It's time to go to sleep. My wife got a later shower than normal, and I was asleep by the time she got out of the shower though, with the lights on.
Nice.
So
Was it in pill form or was it a gummy?
it's a capsule. So this is pill form. But
So rate melatonin on your N equals 1 and 1 time experience.
Right. Worked for me. So
Great.
I guess.
We'll revisit after he does a week worth of 10 milligram melatonin doses.
Gosh.
Yeah. I love
Don't
it.
waste that bottle, Trampus. You gotta.
One other thing I have to mention, because Joe told me that one of us had to, was apparently.
Oh no.
I'm gonna church it up a bit. Apparently, downstream you can have issues.
Now you're being too vague.
Yeah, being clogged.
Are we saying constipation? Yeah,
Constipation.
okay.
Zero issues. So far today.
So Joe mentioned that. So here we go. Joe, I hope Joe listens to this. Joe's experience with melatonin was during a 5-month deployment to like Iraq or Afghanistan or wherever the hell he was at, and he was taking melatonin a lot. But at the same time, why aren't we discussing what his diet was when he was deployed?
Right.
He's like, I all of a sudden got constipated when I started taking melatonin at the deployment. It's like, were you
No,
eating?
It was the DFAC.
Yeah, the DFAC food, or did you slide a couple MREs in there maybe? Like,
oh no.
what? So I have taken melatonin quite a bit off and on over the years. I've never once experienced a constipation problem. I don't know if that's a common thing for other people, but I have never had any issue with that. I would just throw that out there to go against the only thing Joe added to the conversation today. But yeah.
I will say also a caveat to that is I did try kimchi for the first time yesterday. So I'm sure my microbiome is just perfect.
On
Right
fire.
now. Yeah.
Man,
3 or 4
Lord of
bites of
mercy.
kimchi.
Trampus went full send. He's
I
like,
know.
he's like elevated his entire existence to another level in the
believe-
last 24 hours.
I believe my quote on Slack was, "That is a bit excessive." Is what
Yeah.
I didn't want to say anything. I was like, that was great. I cannot wait to hear about your 10 milligram dose tomorrow. Let me know.
Oh man.
Like I said, it wasn't bad. I went to sleep easy than normal and woke up better than normal, which I don't know. Maybe that says there's something something else wrong. That it takes 10 milligrams of melatonin for me to wake up well, but or wake up better. I don't know. Maybe not. Kyle, what you got?
I'm gonna say do it for the next 7 days and see how an extensive trial does for you, and then come off of it for 7 days and see how that works. Then we'll really know. But that's awesome to have one amazing night of sleep and a super productive day the next day. That's awesome. I don't really know what to contribute at this moment. I think Trampus kind of knocked it out of the park. I've never used sleep aids. I've never used the melatonin. I've never used any of that stuff. I also never really had issues going to sleep. We've talked about it on the podcast before of down regulation that we did it a long time ago. I did not look up which episode that was. I'm sorry. But we talked about down regulation a while back. And but I shared in that episode, I've never had down regulation issues, never really had sleep issues. And so I've never used them. I will say that we used a child's dose. We did not give our daughter 10 milligrams of melatonin, but she had a recent sleep regression over the last few weeks, and it was pretty aggressive sleep regression, pretty bad. And that's the only reason that we even considered using melatonin for her was it was bad. It was multiple times at night. She was inconsolable when she would wake up. Like it was just, it was bad. So we used some melatonin for her. We were not still using it because she worked herself out of it. She's not using it anymore. But it cut down on the number of times she woke up during the night. And I think it also kind of helped her get back to sleep more easily until she got out of that sleep regression. But that's my only experience with any kind of sleep aids at all. And so I don't know. I feel like if it, based on what Trampus has said, maybe I do need to try it, at least the big 10 milligram dosage. But
don't go weak with it.
Yeah. But ZMA, I don't have any experience with ZMA either. I would say if you're not getting enough zinc and magnesium and those types of things in your diet, supplementation, I think, is a good way to go. Or just eat foods that have that stuff in it. And that's kind of my go-to with supplementation. I tend to not, except for fish oil. I do take fish oil as well. But I tend to try to stay away from supplementation unless I just can't get what I need out of my food. And so that's just kind of my go-to strategy with all of these things, is to kind of avoid supplementation and try to get it in my diet. And so as far as zinc and magnesium, I try to get those in my diet instead of taking a supplement. You can get zinc in meat, in legumes, nuts, and seeds. You can get magnesium in avocados, also nuts and legumes and seeds. So there you go. Get zinc and magnesium from those things.
Maybe try some
Both of
nuts
those
and
things.
seeds.
Maybe try some nuts and seeds instead of some supplements. You know what I mean? Up to you. Yeah, that's all I got. I don't really have any experience with ZMA, so I don't really know what else to say. Go ahead,
Right.
Ashley. Sorry if that was not helpful.
No, you came in with some good points there.
Yeah, I was about to say.
I have not taken ZMA either, just so we're all aware. It's not like you didn't have to come here having taken it to discuss it.
We all bought it and all took it last night.
Should have bought some last night and let us know how you felt.
I think that's the only way we can do it now. After Trampus is full send on the melatonin, we just got to go try all this stuff.
For us, I'm not a big fan of sleep aids. I have, family members who've had issues with sleep and whatnot. And actually this kind of hits home a little bit. I too have tested out melatonin recently. I was having some issues with some sleep recently, and I feel like both Hens and Connor were like on the same wavelength. Like literally the next day after Hannah posted that, Connor did the exact same thing, was inconsolable, was screaming, up like 12 times in the middle of the night. So for both him and I, a friend was just like, just pop some melatonin, it'll be great. And for me, kind of what Trampus said for melatonin, for me, like 30 minutes after, I was like, I felt that fog of like, you need to go to sleep, but it did not sustain me through the night. I only took 5 milligrams, which was, at what I've read, was pretty high for like a super extra sleep. And, Trampus exceeded that. So there's that. And then I gave my little one, I was like maybe 1 milligram, if that. And it did the opposite for him. He, I felt, was up longer stretches.
Try 10.
No, not.
Can we just go ahead? It's like we don't know anything about proper dosage for kids.
Correct.
Since Trampus just said that you should dose your kid with 10 milligrams.
Yeah,
you should definitely consult his pediatrician.
There you go.
Thank you.
So again, I'm just not a huge fan of sleep aids. What I am a huge fan of is, Kyle mentioned it, down regulation. I love good down regulation practices, and Kyle touched on it, but it's episode 29. And we each gave you ideas of what to do. And so like, I'm down with some warm tea, some blue light blockers, no screens, like really hone in on that stuff when sleep is eluding you. As for ZMA, again, I also have never taken it, but I hesitate to ever tell someone to take a supplementation, because Jerred touched on it at the beginning. I would never want to say, hey, lots of people are deficient in this, you should take this, because you might have your lab work done and you might not be deficient in it. So what's the point of taking it? And there has been, like, it has shown that if you take it, like, let's say magnesium, let's say you're not deficient in magnesium, and then you take this ZMA stuff and you're overdoing your magnesium, it affects other things within your body. So what I would suggest is consult your physician, whatever that may be, and maybe do a bit of lab work and see, like, do I need this zinc, B6, magnesium kind of stuff? But yeah, I would hone down more on some down regulation. Stephen, if we're not answering any of your questions, I'm so sorry. But that would be my 2 cents. Jerred.
I mean, ultimately, to answer his question, ZMA doesn't seem to be more effective than melatonin. And that's why we're talking about melatonin. Melatonin is an actual hormone that's going to help you fall asleep quicker. So if you read the book, Why We Sleep, he talks about melatonin, and he states in there that melatonin seems to be safe even up to with 2 years of supplementation. And then after you stop supplementing it, your body just kicks back into producing melatonin. And so it seems to be very safe, which is not the case. Like, your body doesn't always do that. Like if you take a thyroid supplementation or testosterone supplementation, it normally will inhibit your body's ability to produce that hormone. Your body always comes back, but it normally takes time. And melatonin, for some reason, your body's just pretty freaking good at it. It's like, oh, you're not taking it? Okay, I'll make it. So it does seem to be a really safe supplement. So if I had to pick between ZMA and melatonin, I would say take melatonin, but I wouldn't. It's not habit forming. It's very safe up to long, as far as like studies are concerned, up to 2 years that we are aware of, which is a really long study for a supplement. Seems to be safe. I don't like taking supplements for long periods of time. I have taken melatonin a lot, maybe over the last couple of years. I primarily do it when I'm traveling, especially if there's a time zone change, and I just want to try and get on that schedule as fast as I can. Because if I'm having to fall asleep earlier than normal, taking some melatonin to increase melatonin production and fall asleep. And melatonin does help you fall asleep faster, but it's not like a sleep drug in which it kind of keeps you asleep. So if you have a problem waking up in the middle of the night, or you have to urinate in the middle of the night, like whatever those things are, those things aren't going away because you're like zonked out. It's really the beginning of the night that melatonin helps. It helps you fall asleep faster, and that's the main benefit. Unless you take 10 milligrams, who knows what can happen. It's just Trampus keep doing it. So just to hit on that, I do typically take 3 milligrams. I think it works incredibly well for me. I have some people in my family who are not very healthy, who say melatonin's like a joke. And my theory on that is these kind of supplements work for you if you are already healthy. And so if you are getting enough sleep, you're hydrated, nutrition's good, you're working out during the day, but maybe your mind's a little bit busy and you need help with that down regulation. Maybe it's a period of your life, not a permanent thing. Take some melatonin. It will help you fall asleep faster. So far, there's not a lot of science. I tried pulling it up on, is there any performance related stuff? And there's not. The only thing that we can tie it to is if it's a difference in you getting 7.5 versus 6 hours of sleep because you're falling asleep faster, there's going to be a huge performance gain there. Mm-hmm. And so these are things you have to look at it at an individualized standpoint. So to answer Stephen's question, absolutely take fish oil. There seems to be decent evidence that it helps performance, a lot of evidence that it helps with cardiovascular health, helps with your eyes. And most people don't eat enough fish. If you do eat enough fish, then you don't need a supplement. And as far as ZMA, I think it's okay. It doesn't seem to be as scientifically proven as melatonin. I don't think that it's very harmful either. It doesn't seem to be like it would be a harmful supplement, but I couldn't find any scientific literature that suggested that it was amazing. Like something that where I saw, like I see the science on tart cherry juice, or I see the science on beetroot juice, and I'm like, that's pretty clear cut. I'll take those things. That's fine. Right. But I pulled as much as I could on ZMA, and I didn't see anything that would make me want to even consider start taking it. But fish oil, absolutely. So that's kind of my take on those things.
They said that like it could cause some crazy dreams. Did you read anything about that?
I have heard about, so I heard like in the bodybuilding world, ZMA is very popular. A lot of bodybuilders take it, but yeah, I've heard the dreams from ZMA for sure.
Yeah. I just, there's a sub product called Beam, I think, and it's like more CBD though. And apparently people who take that too, like have, like they call them beam dreams because they have the craziest kind of dream. It just makes me wonder like what it's affecting. Anyways, yeah.
And going to down regulation, the reason we recommend blue light blockers, or the reason they are even recommended, is because a TV screen, a computer monitor, a phone screen sends blue light to your eyes, and your eyes will see that and result in thinking it's daytime and suppress melatonin production. And so that's why we say that, going back to just tying in the whole melatonin thing, that's why you wear blue blockers, where your body will start producing that melatonin earlier and it won't be suppressed. So again, if you're like traveling late at night, you're not wearing blue blockers, maybe forgot them or whatever, dropping some melatonin is just going to help with what you may have been suppressing. So I really feel like it can be a beneficial supplement if you have a good understanding of blue light, how melatonin's produced, the fact that you need sunlight, bright sunlight in the middle of the day to help set your circadian rhythm. All the bigger picture things are important. Not, I don't sleep well, I'm going to take melatonin. Let's look at everything before you just throw that in there.
Yeah.
I think also understanding the word supplement versus replacement. I think sometimes people maybe get mixed up with that of, a supplement is something that should be supplementing the good things that you're already doing, which is kind of what we already touched on as well. It shouldn't be something that's replacing things that you're just leaving out. And I think that's kind of the point that Jerred's making is like, if you're going to take a supplement, it needs to be something that's supplementing things that you've already, worked hard to dial in, you're already doing well with, not things that you're just replacing and not focusing on in other ways. And that's kind of why I bring up like my default is to try to get this in my diet, like the zinc and the magnesium and the B6 and all that. Like my default is to eat those things. And if I can't get enough, kind of like what Jerred said with the fish oil, if I can't get enough in what I eat, then I will supplement with more. But I'm trying to dial in other ways, in the other ways that are better habits, trying to dial those better habits in before I go to a supplement as well.
Yeah, not to mention like the marketers, they're really good at what they do, and they will put a cheap way of making that supplement, whereas it may not even be used by your body because it doesn't get absorbed or
that's always my fear with supplements, is them just being cheaply made, and that's why I don't really like taking supplements, mainly because of that reason. I take protein, and honestly, like, I don't know if I will forever. I'll probably try to get off taking even supplementing with protein and just stick with coffee and water as my 2 performance supplements, But let's get into this workout. Anybody have it pulled up? Want to brief it?
Sure.
All right.
It's clean breathing. So you're going to do 1 clean and take 1 breath, and then 2 cleans, 2 breaths, all the way up to 20. And you don't come back down the ladder. It's just all the way up to 20 is this one.
Yeah. Ascending.
Yep. So that's pretty, what do we like to say? Simple, but not easy. That's this one. I think my advice for this would be the weight can be a deal breaker. So you need to make sure that you are careful when you choose this weight. And and the cleans also, they are full cleans. I hate saying squat clean. I don't know why, but it's because a clean is a squat. But if we say power cleans, that's what you do, you stand up. Anyway, so it's a full clean. But my challenge is to take those deep, I call them belly breaths, where your diaphragm is expanding, not those shallow in your chest kind of breaths, because focus on your breathing here, because that is also going to help with your heart rate throughout this entire breathing exercise. And I think it also helps with, people have talked about, if they've done our breathing ladders, that they get lightheaded. And I think a lot of that has to do with, where are you breathing? Are you breathing from your chest? Are you breathing from your diaphragm and in your belly? And then lastly, I said, maybe do this one without music to focus on that breathing. I know. Did I just say that? I surely did. So to focus on that breath, because that's what's, I think, the most important part here. And if you can't do that, I jokingly said, maybe this is where Jerred's country music can come in. You don't want something with a bunch of beats going on, right? You want to be able to take that full breath. And if you can't take that breath, isn't that where you stop and you cut it? Like, if you can't get those breaths in, is that correct?
All right. I'm still focusing on country music. So yeah, you do normally cut it off in a breathing ladder. I think that, that's technically where it's over. So if you can't keep up with the pacing of the breath, then you should end the workout, because you're getting too erratic, and it's not really the purpose of the programming anymore.
Right. And the last thing we need you to do is pass out underneath a clean. So there's that. What do you guys have? Kyle?
Oh, okay. I would say, kind of going along with what Ashley said, of be intentional with this one. This one is not for time, by the way. It's paced out properly. Like you do 1 clean, you do 1 breath, you do 2 cleans, you do 2 breaths. So it's paced out that way, but it's not for time. So don't get don't get to where you're trying to slam out cleans really fast to get it over with or something like that. Don't, be very intentional and remember the purpose of the workout. We're trying to work on on breathing properly, as Ashley said, of breathing in a proper place in our body, like using our diaphragm, not our chest. We're trying to be, this is a very intentional workout. And I think that's where the mental toughness comes in, is wanting to rush through it and get it done, or not feeling like it's intense enough. Here's the thing, breathing ladders are deceptively tough, especially if you're doing a breathing ladder with cleans. Like this is crazy. You know what I mean? Because we've done them with kettlebells. We've done them with double unders. We've done them with all kinds of different movements, but doing them with cleans as well. A clean is a very technical, very intentional movement as well. And you really need to focus on your movement during a clean as well. And so just that's my tip for this one, is be very, very intentional with this workout. Understand what the purpose of it is, and focus on each piece of it, and do it properly, because there's potential for things not going well for you if you don't do it properly. Trampus.
Right. Yeah. So leading off of that the first time I did clean breathing was in 2017, I think it was, and it may not have been a Meet Yourself Saturday, but you will program something similar to this from time to time anyways. But I wasn't using very good form, and it led to me almost quitting GGA for about altogether, because I'd hurt my neck and I'd hurt my shoulder, and I was like, wow, this is dumb. But if you're not using good form, you're accumulating a lot of cleans. So pick your weight correctly, but also make sure you're moving right. That's going to be the toughest thing here. So, and just don't ego your way through this, because if you start breaking form with something that we don't do a lot, we don't perform a lot of cleans, whether it's a small weight or not, you can mess yourself up. And the last thing you want to do is, with an optional workout, is hurt yourself from being able to get normal training done.
All right. So my tips are very similar to what has already been mentioned. So I'll echo Kyle. Know the intent of the workout. It's to focus on your breath and getting that more dialed in and regulated, because you'll learn that if you can get your breathing and you in check, and you figure out how to control, it's called arousal control. If you can stop your body from going into this super flight mode, fight or flight mode, and you can be more intentional about your breath, you can actually really lower how your body responds to high intensity exercise, and maybe even put you in a lower zone so you can put out more work at a lower heart rate. There's a lot of benefits to focusing on your breath, and a lot of athletes don't do it. And that's why I always recommend breathing exercises, like using an app, whether that's an actual daily practice, and the occasional breathing ladder really helps you. It's helped me a lot over the years. So know why you're going into this, and take your freaking time. Kai also said there's no real time on this, and that's because breathing ladders can take a really long time, especially if you're doing them right. Because when you get to 20 reps of the clean, and then you do 20 perfect deep breaths, those 20 breaths should not be quick. Now, you are going to be pretty fatigued, and so you might not have as much say about how quickly you're breathing, but the better that you get at these, and the more you do them, the more that you will have say over how long those breaths take. And you'll realize, what you're actually capable of. So that was a big one for me. And then on Trampus's note, he mentioned, getting hurt. We don't do a lot of cleans in the program. The reason I selected a clean in this programming is because it is super metabolically demanding. That's it. There's nothing special about the clean here. So if you want to participate, get all the same benefits, do a burpee. Okay. Burpee, same thing. Go 1 to 20. Burpees are, for some reason, a human being getting up off the ground is the hardest thing that we can do. But there's a lot of movements. There's a lot of physics involved with the burpee, very metabolically demanding. So if you want to a sub that would not cheat the benefit of this workout at all, go with a burpee, because it's probably just as metabolically demanding here for this workout. So do a burpee if you're not comfortable with the cleans, you don't want to do them. And to be honest, we're not programming them at all really anymore. So don't worry about it. Just do the burpee. But that's it. Be safe and really focus on the breath. And for those who do like intense workouts and like hitting it hard, the meet yourself part of this might be slowing the F down, right? Slow down and get better at fitness instead of just trying to hit everything balls to the wall all the time. But I think that's it. Good luck on that workout. We will get out of here. For all of our Garage Gym athletes currently a part of the program, remember, I mentioned earlier the educational webinars that we have. You can get access to the Fuels course. Anyone who's not a member, go fix that problem at garagegymathlete.com. Sign up for a 14-day free trial. Get access to our educational resources, the programming, and the Fuels course costs extra anyway. So if you don't want to be a part of that, but you still want to learn about Fuels, you can still do that at end3fitness.com. And for my weekly reminder, if you don't kill comfort, comfort will kill you. To the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.